Welcome back to the channel. For today's video, we're continuing on our series of going through different category breakdowns at the upcoming Academy Awards, and in today's video, we're taking a look at the Best Animated Feature Film category. Now, again, if you haven't seen earlier today's video or yesterday's video, I've kind of been addressing my voice a little bit. I've been a little sick, and I haven't, really had a voice for the last 2 days. It's coming back a little bit today, so I've been trying to pump out, multiple videos. So you can see I'm really kind of pushing a lot of these out to make sure that, in case my voice goes again, that I get the videos out for you. So again, forgive me if my voice, it's been kind of cracking and it's kind of a little rough and maybe isn't as pleasant to listen to, but thank you for your patience and bearing with, dealing with the voice. So going back into this category, the Best Animated Feature Film category, if you haven't seen any videos in this series, there's a playlist on my channel that you can go back and watch. I believe 20-ish, different videos at this point, going through this format. But if you haven't seen any of those and you just kind of want to get the general gist of what the videos are like, what the format is, what I do is I just take a look at each of the nominees in the category, and then in this category I'll give you some facts about the film and about the nominated individuals with it, usually like the directors and the producers, kind of give you some facts about them, and then at the end we'll kind of discuss the film a little bit, and then at the end I will give you my personal ranking of each film and my prediction for how likely I think it is that they win the Oscar on March 10th. So without further ado, let's take a look at the nominees. The first nominee that we're taking a look at is The Boy and the Heron. This is Hayao Miyazaki's fourth Oscar nomination. He won in 2003 for Spirited Away and was nominated in 2014 for The Wind Rises and in 2006 for Howl's Moving Castle. This is Toshio Suzuki's third Oscar nomination. His other two nominations were in 2017 for The Red Turtle and in 2014 for The Wind Rises with Miyazaki. The Boy and the Heron won Best Animated Film at the BAFTAs and at the Golden Globes. And so I've mentioned multiple times on this channel that I'm not the biggest Miyazaki fan in the sense that I just, it's not that I don't like Miyazaki, it's just that I haven't really watched any of Miyazaki's films. And so I mentioned, I don't remember what video it was that I was talking about this in, but I was mentioning, I guess it was the February recapping what I watched video. I was talking about Miyazaki, and I mentioned that I had gone back and I'd watched two previous Miyazaki films, and it was Spirited Away, and in the video, I said that it was Castle in the Sky, I think. It was the film that I was saying that I watched, but it was definitely Howl's Moving Castle, so that's where you can see where my understanding and my knowledge of Miyazaki films, where I'm not really as in as a lot of other people. I haven't really dove into Studio Ghibli and into these films as much as a lot of other people, where I, again, just kind of two castles in the sky movies, and so I just kind of blended the names together. I definitely meant Howl's Moving Castle in that video. Is the other Miyazaki film that I've seen. So I've seen those two, and then now The Boy and the Heron I've seen twice. But that's kind of it. And so, but it is an interesting film, and it's captivating in the sense that as I'm watching this film, I do love the style. I love the storytelling. I love the narrative, in the sense of, like, he has a very unique kind of style to the narrative style of the films. Of it is really kind of, every film kind of feels like these epic journeys. You get these characters, and it's, you follow them from start to finish through this epic journey of what they're going through. It's not really as clear all the time, and because, again, with the animation style, anything, the creative, the beautiful worlds that he's crafting in all of these films, really the film can go anywhere. And it's hard to predict. You're really in for a treat, especially a visual treat, as you watch these films. And so I think that just the craftsmanship overall from Miyazaki is just, it's beautiful, it's brilliant. I think it is. And for me, I think The Boy and the Heron, maybe it's one of those films that, maybe with more rewatches in the future, and as I kind of get into Miyazaki's filmography a little bit more, maybe I will grow to have kind of a deeper appreciation for it in the future. Right now, I appreciate it as a film. I think it's a good film. I think it's a beautiful looking film. Ultimately, doesn't necessarily, didn't capture me, I think, in the way that it will for a lot of people that are, big fans of Miyazaki, obviously are going to really love this film. For me, I think it's a good film, and I'm glad it's nominated. I do think it's 100% worthy of that nomination, and I even think it is worthy of being in consideration for the win, like it is. I do understand, the impact that this film has on people that really truly do love Miyazaki and his work. So it is a film that I'm excited to, years from now, maybe come back to and visit and see, in the future, if if I come at it from a like, kind of a different perspective and with more knowledge into just kind of the world of Miyazaki, if I'm able to love and appreciate the film a little bit more than I am in the moment. So my personal ranking for The Boy and the Heron is third, and my prediction is second, but I do think there's a real good chance that this could win the Oscar on March 10th. The next nominee that we're taking a look at is Elemental. This is Peter Sohn's first Oscar nomination. This is his sophomore directorial effort, following up The Good Dinosaur in 2015. This is Denise Ream's first Oscar nomination. She was a producer on The Good Dinosaur, as well as Cars 2 in 2011 and Up in 2009. And Elemental has kind of had a real interesting journey, a real interesting story to getting here to where it's at now. Of this film that was, um, you know, it came out and a lot of people didn't really give it a great chance, but a lot of critics were coming in saying this is an okay film, it's a great film, kind of wherever wherever they lied on that kind of discussion of ranking the film, I guess. But it was still one of those that I think a lot of people thought people are going to go see. You're going to go see the Pixar film, right? You're going to go out and see this film, and then all of a sudden it was doing nothing at the box office. No one was going to see this film. And so then it became the big story of the buzz about this film kind of flopping and no one going and seeing it. And, oh, is this the end of for Pixar? And it was just became this big story about how this film was just flopping so hard. And then just out of nowhere, it truly made a comeback in the box office. And I remember Elemental was in theaters for the longest time. It was in theaters for a long time throughout kind of like I guess like maybe it was like late spring, early summer. I don't remember exactly when it was that it was in theaters, but I just remember it being there for a long time because it really had this second life and really bounced back in a big way at the box office. And so I'm really glad that a lot of people went out to go see Elemental because I truly love the film. I think it's a beautiful film. I know a lot of people kind of think it's a little bit more shallow and it kind of it is very manipulative, and I will give the film that there's a lot of times that you can feel that the film is just kind of manipulating your emotions. It's kind of just pulling at your heartstrings and just kind of like making you instead of the film really just kind of like naturally guiding you there, the film is kind of like manipulating you into those emotions. And so I do understand that that kind of being a thing that a lot of people didn't love about the film. But for me, it's hard for me to say I didn't like the film when it got me, when it affected me as much as it did. Even though I could feel myself being manipulated, I was still bought into the film. I was still bought into the characters. I think it's great, kind of voice acting performances from Ember and Wade, their actors. I just think that ultimately the story, it's a very personal story to the director and to the screenwriter and to everyone kind of involved in the film. You can feel the personal story that's being told here, and I think that their connection to the film and their love for the film ultimately sells it to me a whole lot more, to where I was just captivated by it. And so I think just in general, I think the whole film, as a whole, I think it just worked so well. It was a beautiful story. It gets me really emotional. It has a beautiful score, and so ultimately I do think this is a very great a Pixar film, and it's one that I enjoyed even more on a second watch, which kind of surprised me. I was thinking that maybe I would come down a little bit on a second watch, but I truly loved it more on a second watch. So my personal ranking for Elemental, I'm putting this in second, and my prediction is fourth. The next nominee that we're taking a look at is Nimona. This is the first Oscar nomination for all four of Nick Bruno, Troy Quane, Karen Ryan, and Julie Zachary. Nick Bruno and Troy Quane have both directed Spies in Disguise together back in 2019. This is the first producing credit for both Karen Ryan and Julie Zachary. And Nimona is another just kind of beautiful, brilliant film on Netflix. And if I'm not mistaken, I do remember seeing that they actually Netflix themselves put the entire video on YouTube. So if you don't have a Netflix subscription, you can find the video on YouTube. I don't know if it was just up for like a weekend thing or if it's still there. But there is a chance that you might be able to just go find the full film on Netflix's YouTube channel. But I do recommend checking it out if you haven't seen Nimona or if you haven't really heard about it. It was one of those that Netflix, oftentimes they get criticized a lot for this, for just kind of dumping films onto the platform and not really advertising some of them. Some of them they advertise really well. Some of them just kind of get swept away, right? And you don't really hear much about them. Nimona, for me, I think was one of those films where you kind of didn't really hear a whole ton about it. So I recommend going and checking it out if you haven't seen Nimona. It is a film that it just, within the first scene before the title cards happen, it really just drops you into their world, and it does a brilliant job of, there's some films that whether they're set in the future or they're just set in an alternate universe, they're just set somewhere different. They do so much of just kind of explaining the universe to you instead of just letting you breathe and letting you just experience the universe. For me, I think one of the best examples of a film, a franchise that just put you in the universe and didn't explain anything, just let you discover it and experience it on your own, is like the John Wick universe, right? You're put into this universe of assassins and you just kind of are like you're forced to just pick it up. Like it just, they don't explain. They're not holding your hand. They're not explaining anything to you. They just say, "Here's the universe that we're going to be in." And as the films go on, you just start to learn about how their universe works. Nimona is the same way. This opening scene, they kind of just it plops you in. You get the feeling of it's this kind of futuristic, but at the same time medieval universe that it's kind of merging together. You understand the dynamics of power. You understand the rank system of how people can rise. You understand the characters. You understand just again outside of what the main characters are dealing with, the universe as a whole. You understand just what this universe looks like, what's happening here. And so this film does an excellent job of just world building and then just letting you experience it, letting you breathe it in. And so I think that's really cool. And then on top of it, it does have a great story. It does have a very a grand journey as you follow these two characters, Riz Ahmed and Chloe Grace Moretz, the voice acting that they're doing in this film. You're following these characters throughout the film, and it does a great job of really just kind of telling you this grand story, and it's just kind of this grand adventure of deceit and lies and trusting and believing in the people that you love, and so it has all of these different themes that really kind of like form this great story. And so I think it's just all in all, it's just a really great experience. And ultimately, I think where you see that where I'm putting this on the list, it kind of might indicate otherwise. But I truly did love Nimona. It was a fun kind of quirky comedy that ultimately I don't think it connected with me as much as it has for some other people. But ultimately, it's a fun movie, and I really do recommend you check it out if you haven't. So my personal ranking for Nimona, I'm putting this in fourth, and my prediction is third. The next nominee that we're taking a look at is Robot Dreams. This is the first Oscar nomination for all four of Pablo Berger, Iban Cormenzana, Ignacy Istapi, and Sandra Tapia Diaz. This is the fourth film directed by Pablo Berger, and the first since Abacadabra in 2017. Robot Dreams had some run at film festivals last year, but it hasn't had a theatrical release or a streaming release yet, so I have not been able to see the film. For that reason, I have to put Robot Dreams in last place for both my personal rank and my prediction. And the final nominee that we're taking a look at is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. This is the first Oscar nomination for both Kemp Powers and Justin K. Thompson. This is the third Oscar nomination for both Phil Lord and Christopher Miller. They both won in 2019 for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and they were nominated together for The Mitchells vs. the Machines in 2022. This is Amy Pascal's third Oscar nomination. She was nominated for producing Little Women in 2019 and for producing The Post in 2017. And so for me, and I'm sure for many other people, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is, it is I guess my second favorite film of the year, and for a lot of people, it's one of their top, two, three, top five films of the year. Like a lot of people really love this film. I'm no exception. And so in this film, I think it's interesting that this film had the potential of being kind of, I think a lot of people thought it was going to be the runaway in this category for that reason because of how many people truly loved it. But it's really interesting that really is just a coin toss. It's a two-horse race here between Across the Spider-Verse and The Boy and the Heron. The Boy and the Heron technically has more of the major precursor wins because, SAG doesn't have an animated feature category. And so, Boy and the Heron has two of the precursors, and Spider-Man has the other. It has the Critics' Choice Award. So really, we are at a complete coin toss going into the Oscars on Sunday of which of these films is going to win. But just taking a look here at Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, taking a look at the way that I view this film, and I've talked about this a lot. I talked about this in my What I Watched in February video as well. For me, I think Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse gets a lot of flack for being a part one and kind of ending the story midway through, and I think a lot of people didn't feel like they got a full story. For me, and I've said this again, I'll continue to say, I do think I got a full story because the way that I interpret it and the way that I'm understanding Across the Spider-Verse is it's more of a personal journey for Miles and Gwen Stacy, right? We're following them as they're, at the beginning of the film, they're kind of struggling to understand who they are. Gwen Stacy's trying to find her band. Miles, when he's meeting with his teacher at the beginning, she shows him like a blank slate of paper and says, "This, I don't know who you are. I don't know like your story. I don't know again, just like, yeah, who you are, what your role is in for her, obviously talking about like him being a student, but as the audience, we can interpret that scene of we don't understand, and he doesn't understand what his role is as a Spider-Man. And so throughout the film, once you get into that to the society of the spider people, I think that's what they call, I'm not exactly remembering what it's called, but when we get to that chapter, when we get to that story, I do think that even though Spot disappears from that point on pretty much throughout the rest of the film, I do still think that we're getting resolution to the more personal growth elements of the film. We're getting Miles and Gwen, we're getting the personal growth elements, and I think that is the story here of the second Spider-Verse film in this trilogy. And so again, I do think that for me personally, even though the villain disappears, I think we are still getting a full story, and we didn't necessarily, the Spot can come back in Beyond the Spider Verse Part 3 when it comes out. I don't think we needed that resolution in this film. For me personally, I guess some people maybe don't feel that same way, because for me, I do still think that we got a full personal, a beautiful story, full character growth, and again, just a full story between Miles Morales and Gwen Stacy's characters. And so again, for me, I love the film. I do think it's a beautiful and again just a complete cinematic experience. And then obviously when we're talking about best animated feature film, we got to talk about the animation style, because this film is so beautifully animated. Each of the universes that they're bouncing between is animated in different styles. Obviously you've got Gwen Stacy's world as kind of more of the watercolor style, and then you're bouncing between just Miles' world and just all the different Spider-Mans. When you're in their worlds, you kind of see the different animation style, you see the different kind of the culture, or the just kind of where they live, how that dictates the animation style, how it looks a little bit different, and it all looks so beautiful. And so this is a film, there has been a lot of kind of criticism about a lot of the animators didn't really have enough time to really work on the film. There was a lot of pressure on them, and that is unfortunate. And I hope that in Beyond the Spider Verse, I hope that they're willing to delay the film as long as possible to make sure that the animators are really getting enough time and the tools and the resources to really create the perfect film. But even under the bad, not perfect, ideal circumstances here for this film, I think they really did deliver a beautiful film, a beautiful just experience. And I think that if this does ultimately end up winning on Sunday, I do think it is a worthy winner, as much as the first Spider-Verse film was back in 2019 for that film. So for my personal ranking of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, I'm putting this in first. And for my prediction, I am predicting this to win, but again, it is a complete toss-up at this point between Spider-Verse and The Boy and the Heron. And that's it. Those are the nominees for Best Animated Feature Film at the upcoming Academy Awards. Let me know down below in the comments what film you're rooting for and what film you think is going to win. And then while you're down there as well, let me know if there's any films that you think were snubbed in this category. Maybe you were a big fan of Wish. I haven't really heard anyone that was, but maybe that's you. Maybe you were really rooting for, Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nugget, or maybe you were rooting for the Super Mario Bros. Movie. I mean, and then I just named three. I didn't even mention Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, who was kind of the real snub here, I think, in this category. But maybe there were some other animated films that you really loved, and you want to shout them out down below in the comments. And while you're also down there, I guess I've said this for every video. Let me know what category you want me to see me break down next. But if I'm remembering correctly, I think there's really only one category left, so that is coming up tomorrow. We'll kind of get to that last category, but we're really at the end here. So it's again, thank you for sticking with me through this journey. We're not quite done yet, so I'll save my kind of super appreciation speech for that video. But again, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for bearing with my voice, and have a great day.